Leo, welcome to your hopes, fears, and reality spread. As per usual, you can click right on that description box below. In the description box, you will find the significance of the spread, the placement of each card, and the name of the deck being used, if that interests you. Leo, it kind of feels like you're preparing for battle. I don't want to say you're looking for a fight because you're not looking for a fight, you're expecting one. Okay? There has recently been some illumination on a problem, a concern, a fact. The lighting is just, it's based on the cards because it's blocking the light from outside. I apologize. There we go. So, what it is there has been some illumination on a problem, a concern, a fact, or whatever, and you're expecting conflict to break out. But you didn't want this conflict, okay? You were looking for more constructive criticism, collaboration, something of that sort. But you recognize the possibility. So even though you're tired, even though you're exhausted, even though I mean, this is the Wounded Warrior card. You know, here he is. He's got a bandage on his head. He has these 8 staffs behind him that he's willing to protect. This is him putting his walls up. This is where he draws his line in the sand. And he's holding on to that 9th one, ready to defend what he has to defend. Okay? So within this illumination, you're expecting some conflict between yourself and another person, or between yourself and a group, or what's most likely is you're caught in the middle between 2 groups, and you're like, well, I'm just going to defend what I need to defend for my own peace of mind, and then I'm going to let the chips fall where they may. So in your hopes, you are preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, and taking up arms just in case. You are hoping to just defend your own peace of mind and not get any more involved than that. In your fears category, the Queen of Swords is an interesting character as she always speaks the truth, okay? The truth just falls right out of her mouth with no filter. She doesn't think twice. But she doesn't do it to be malice, and she doesn't do it to hurt people. She does it to get down to the facts and to progressively move forward on an intellectual level, okay? The Queen of Swords in the inverse is in her feels. The Queen of Swords in the upright is in her head. But either way, the Queen of Swords has no filter and just says what she says. She doesn't intend to hurt people. And that is with the Devil in the inverse. So here's where I'm at with this. You fear, okay, that speaking your truth will expose the bad habits of the group dynamic. Okay? You fear that being absolutely honest will show failure of more than one person. So if this is you and one person, this is your fault and their fault. If this is you between 2 groups, both groups are at fault, and you have a hand in it. Maybe you didn't do these things, but maybe you allowed them to happen without stopping it sooner. Okay, so you fear, if you are completely honest with yourself, that although you're trying to stay out of this conflict, you recognize that something about you contributed to it. The reality of the situation is you are not the leader of this battle. And you are not the one who created this conflict. Okay? And you know that, which is why you're here saying, I have a minimal level of involvement. And here might even be, I have a minimal level of fault. But nonetheless, you're in the thick of it. Yeah, the King of Wands in the inverse is interesting because the King of Wands upright is a very benevolent leader and looking forward to new growth. The King of Wands in the inverse is sometimes somebody who tries to cover up a mistake. So I kind of get the feeling, Leo, I kind of get the feeling your level of involvement and fault that you're worried about exposing is that you may have covered up for a friend. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting here. Maybe that's not going to resonate with everybody, but for a few specific people, you covered up a friend's mistake, and in order to get down to the business of things, you would have to expose the fact that you covered up their mistake, and you want to defend your reasons for doing that. You want to make sure you have a good reason and a good explanation for why that happened before that truth gets exposed. Yeah, see, you've already made a decision on how you're going to move forward. You've already taken that time to reflect within yourself and you have a plan, and you've already laid out a solid foundation for your defense and your defense strategy. Now you're just hoping that you have the fortitude to move forward with it. And I think you do, because I very rarely talk about the astrological significance between, or the significance between the actual tarot card and the astrological energy. But if that person's card comes up in that person's read, like we have right here, the strength card is astrologically linked to the Leo sign, or symbolically linked to the astrological Leo sign. This tells me that you are operating within your energy. So this kind of defense and this kind of mechanism isn't new to you. You know how this works, and you almost in your head know how it's going to play out. You can't be sure 100%, but you're like 90% sure I know exactly how to react in this situation. I know exactly what to do, and I know exactly how this is going to play out in the end. Whew. But there's an unknown factor in regards to the resources that'll be left when this plays out. So you know on a political standpoint how this is going to roll out, but you don't know how the resources are going to be adjusted afterwards. You don't know what open wounds are going to be left, because see, the queens nurture resources, and the moon can be about that unknown factor that happens in lives, living, stepping into the shadow, stepping out into the unknown. So yes, you're 90% sure how this is going to play out, but that other 10% really scares you. There's a bit of anxiety that goes along with that. And again, that fear that you have is the absolute truth coming forward and what that might expose. Truth is a funny thing because it's based on perception. There's this wonderful book called The Things They Carry. I think it was Timothy O'Brien. And it's a bunch of short stories about men in combat, like soldiers. And one of the stories he talks about how you can put a spin on a particular story to make it more intriguing. And there's a wonderful way that he describes it, but it's almost like, how do I put it? It's not telling an outright lie by changing the facts of the matter, but it's about putting a spin on it so people can accept or disagree with it, or, you know what I mean, to have to persuade your audience. It's not an outright lie so much as it's a spin of persuasion. So that's why the word political comes up. This feels like there's a lot of politics involved and there's a lot of people involved, and you're the one sitting in the middle that has, or maybe not even sitting in the middle. Maybe you're up above it. Maybe you have that bird's eye view because you've seen something like this before, and everybody else is so taken up by the whirlwind, they don't have that bird's eye view that you have. But you recognize that if everything gets settled the way it ought, there is a small percentage of this that is your fault, but right now you removed yourself from this and you hope to get out of this as if nothing was as if you had no hand in it whatsoever. Leo, it's kind of sneaky. It's kind of sneaky, but it seems to me like you're acting out of self-preservation. That's what I got. I hope you found a message that serves your highest good, and I'll see you next time.